Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to do a review on this Serica watch here. Really nice watch. I just bought it and there was no review on YouTube, which is a bummer. I always want a review before I buy. So now I'll make a review for you so that you have it, so you can contemplate it. There is, however, one review, and that's from the time teller, and it is actually quite good. I really like it. He reviews the black one and I have the white here. So anyway, here it goes. The name actually is, as you can see, Serica. It's a pretty new brand and it's called the W.W.W wristwatch waterproof and made for these guys, these four guys that you see there in the picture. So I really like the watch and I bought it without having a review of it. What you'll notice first off is there's actually no logo on the dial, no logo at all. So that's why I have this Serica name here. And to make this a little bit more interesting, I will compare it to a Hamilton Khaki, because this is a field watch, and the one I'll compare it to is this one. The Hamilton Khaki is a really nice watch and I've been looking at it and really contemplating whether to buy it because I wanted a field watch. I wanted a white watch instead of the black ones. I have too many blacks, so I wanted a white one. And then I saw this one and in the end, who won? Well, Serica won here. But there's pros and cons, and I would like to show you the good and the bad stuff on both of these two watches, so sort of as a battle between these two. I mean, the brand, of course, is totally new for Serica, whereas the brand for Hamilton is really old and has a lot of history behind it. So clearly the Hamilton is winning because of their reputation. So that's, of course, a given. Let's have a look at the price. That's a good starting point. So this one is on the website is $648, and the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical, this one, is around, depending on where you buy it, like $450 to $500. So this is about $150 to $200 more expensive, but basically they're in the same category, like those 500 to 650. So the first difference is there. Let's switch to the size so we get an idea. This is, if I calculate here, 37.6 or 37.7. Really nice size for a field watch. And it is 46.3 lock to lock, and here 11.5 thick, and this is a manual wind, and the locks are 20 millimeters. So it's a really nice size. The Hamilton is 38 millimeters and 9.5 thick. Basically, the size of these watches are very close, and I really like both of them because they're not the old field watches like 36 millimeters, which is also okay, but I really prefer 38 millimeters. So both of them are good. The thickness here is 9.5 in the Hamilton, which is very thin, and this one, as you can see, is around 11.4. So it's a little bit thicker, and I do like that. It's still extremely thin, this one, but not as much as this, and I like there's a little bit of heft to it. Now another thing is the design of this. It has a little bit, few more iterations, because if I show you this, they have two different whites. So, and that's the difference is the hands, either broad arrow hands or Dauphine hands. And they also got them in black, also again with two different set of hands. So let's get to the movement. The movement here in this one is a ETA 2801-2, so that's a very respectable movement, a workhorse, really solid, very respectable. The power reserve is 42 hours, which is really good, and there is no complications at all. So I'll just pop that in. Not even a date. You know, half the community likes dates and half the community dislike dates. So that's a 50-50, so you can't win. I like the symmetry of no dates, and that's just for me. Whereas the Hamilton here is also without date, and they also have other types with date. What is more interesting is that this has a screw down crown. I was not expecting, because this is a manual wind, so you can actually unscrew it and it pops out, and then you can, of course, you can hack it, and you can change it and set it up again. But that screw down was not something I expected when it's a manual wind, and that's the first sort of negative, because people are always afraid when you have a manual wind and you have to wind it every day. They're afraid that when you have to use the screwing crown, I mean, that's going to wear and tear on the mechanism. So I would say I was worried as well. If it was my book, I would have chosen an automatic, simply because it's easier. I know manual winds are really nice and perceived as a little bit better, but I would prefer an automatic when you have the screw-in crown. The positive about the screw-in crown is that it gives you 100 meters of water resistance, and that's a clear bonus compared to the Hamilton, because it's 50 meters. I don't consider a field watch really functional when it's only 50 meters. I mean, if you're wading through rivers and, you know, all kind of things, 50 meters is not something I'm comfortable with. I really want 100 meters as a minimum, and this one has it, and it has a screw-in crown, so really a big bonus. Then, so the screw-in crown is a really positive, and the 100 meters is a really positive. And then it's an automatic, it's not an automatic, it's a manual wind, so you have to unscrew it every day. And that's a little bit of a negative. But my thinking is this, my thinking process, and I don't know, but my process is this. They have clearly chosen something that is a little bit out of the ordinary. And when they have chosen a screw-in crown and a manually wound, they have clearly gone against what is normal, and so they have been thinking long and hard about it, and they've decided to do it and then make the action here really good. And I must give that, it really looks very feels very solid when you screw it in. So I really think they have taken all the care needed to make this a screw-in crown and make it work. So I think there's not a problem in this at all. Only negative here is the pop out. I had other screw-in crowns as well, and this pop out is a little bit tricky. Sometimes I have to assist it in order to get it going, and then suddenly it pops out. So that's not something I'm used to. Maybe, I mean, I've just had it for a week, so maybe that will change. Another thing is when I wind it like this, it sort of has a playback. I wind it forward, and then it sort of takes 20% back by its own, like a spring. Yeah. When I wind it forward, if I let go, it sort of jumps 20% back. I tried to search on the internet what is causing that. I don't think it's something to worry about, but if you guys know what this is, I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there who knows what that is and can tell me whether it's something to be worried about or not. I think it's okay, but do let me know what is causing that 20% throwback, that springy action back. So the next thing that we'll be talking about is the design, and that's a very big piece. And that is why I bought this one and not the Hamilton. The Hamilton is really, really nice. I think they got it almost dead right, but this is a class of its own. First of all, it's a very masculine design, I think, with those beefy locks and so. And the next thing is they have sort of, in my mind, they have taken a classical field watch from the war, for the W.W.W. watch, and then reimagined it. Taking a field watch and turning the design volume up to sort of a boardroom dressier watch. So you can use this not just in the field, but you can use it for restaurants, for office, for the boardroom. And I think this design idea is so good. And it's also going to be important for when we review it here. So let's talk design here. The design basis is a classical field watch, Hamilton or some of the other W.W.W. watches, in terms of size and thickness and functionality. But no watch is standing on its own. For example, the hands. These are Omegas, the very classical broad arrow hands that you find on old Omegas. And they've decided to use that here. So you can see the hour hand, the broad arrow there, and the minute hand here, which is thin. And that is the Q they've taken from Omega. Of course, they also have the Dauphin hands, like you can see here. So you can choose whichever you like. Another design cue they had is, this is a Rolex Cellini. There's sort of a view of this very masculine locks and the design with the bezel that you can see here. Also very broad masculine locks and that bezel here. It's not like they have copied the Rolex at all, because there's a lot of differences. But the idea of making something very, very masculine. And that is one of the very big things for me, because this one, the Hamilton, has very thin locks. And I don't like thin locks. And I especially don't like the combination with very thin locks and very long locks. Hamilton is known for these very, very long locks, and the spring bar is located on the outer edge of it, creating a very big gap between the band and the case. That's not a problem when you have a NATO strap, but when you have a regular straps, it's a big problem with that gap. And those problems, it's sort of a feminine touch when you have this very round curve and thin locks. Whereas this one, with the beefy locks, calls for a much more masculine design and cry out. And there's also drilled locks here, and they're placed much more closely to the case, and it's not as long. So it's really a joy to see that, and that creates a world of difference here. So on the hands you have a super luminoma, which is great. I'll put in a lume shot a little bit later. I always forget lume shot, but there's super luminoma, and I think in that case there's two small problems. I have to show it as it is. It seems like the hour and minute hands have a darker set compared to these hour markings here, which is a lighter brown or lighter yellow. So there are two different hues, and that could have been coordinated a little bit better. So that's one problem. The other problem I have is the hour markings here. So when I view it up close, for me it looks like, oh, it's just like printed on top and that's it. It looks crude, it looks not very elegant, not refined. Whereas if you look at the Hamilton here, you can see they're very nicely placed, and there's even a black border around it. It looks more finished, more refined. and many markings have it like that. And I think this one is getting away a little bit crude, just putting a splash of paint on the railroad track here. So I don't think they made that really good. I would appreciate something a little bit more refined. But I would say up close it's a problem. I don't like it up close, but once you put it on the hand and you see it from far away, you don't see it at all. I mean, you can see the faux patina, but it doesn't look printed on in a bad way. I mean, it looks perfectly fine from a distance, and that's where you view your watch. But two things I do like: look at the second hands. It goes to the end of the railroad track. That's a very nice feature. I like that. And the minute hand also goes to the beginning of the railroad track. It's a very nice feature. Another feature is, if you can angle it a little bit, you can see the hands are brushed, and it matches the brushing on the bezel. So the hands and the bezel goes together, including the second hand, which is also brushed. I think it's a very nice combination. Now we'll have a look at the glass, and I'm deliberately saying glass. This is a very nice domed glass, and I really like it, but it's mineral glass. And that's of course a drawback. Everyone, I mean, Serica probably knows it. When they chose mineral glass, they know they're going to get flag, because of course everyone wants sapphire. And this one, the Hamilton, is sapphire. So Hamilton really wins on the sapphire glass. If you have a rugged field watch, you want to have it sapphire so that you can run around and without caring about getting it scratched. So it needs to be sapphire. End of story. That's how it is. So it is a drawback that it's mineral glass, but what it lacks in terms of that, it does it in AR coating. This is AR coated, and I specifically asked them before buying it. They confirmed it, and it is with AR coating. You can sort of sometimes see it with the hue here, this sort of violet hue or blue hue. It's such a legible watch. I really want AR coating, and that's my top number one concern always. Whereas the Hamilton, I've tried many Hamiltons, do not have AR coating, and it's a disaster. I just call it like I see it. So many, I've handled these Hamilton khakis, and if they don't have AR coating, there's a reflection all over. It's terrible, and oftentimes you can't see what the time is because of it. It's really a pain. So I would say this is a negative one-on-one. So negative, no AR coating. Here, negative, it's mineral glass. So they're sort of equal. Hamilton do, however, have, for example, this one. This Hamilton is AR coated, and it's done so well. So the Hamilton can make AR coating. But for most of their khaki range, they don't have it. And I've handled a few, and it's just a turn off for me. So I would say it like this: AR coating is my top number one priority. Number two priority is the sapphire. I can't get that. But do I really want to run around in the field with this watch? Probably not. Or in my case, definitely not. If I'm going to run around, I'm going to use a Casio G-Shock or something else that I can bang about without having a care in the world. I would not drag this into the field. This is a higher end design for me. And that's what I said at the beginning. You have to view this from a design angle, that this is a field watch elevated in design so that it can fit the boardroom, restaurants, and so on. And in that respect, mineral glass is perfectly fine. although I still would prefer sapphire. And AR coating is the most important thing. So I think the Serica wins here. So a third thing is the case. As you can see, it has the brushed sides all over except the crown here, and then the bezel is also brushed, and then they have this polished edge here around, and I really like that. If it was a true field watch, you would have no polishing, but this is not a true field watch. This is a ballroom watch, and this polished edge here just elevates the design. It sort of, yeah, the best word is elevate, because it lifts the whole design up. The design can be a little bit dead if it's just all over brushed or all over polished. Here it sort of gives it a playful thing that elevates it. So I really like that. So that's point number one. Point number two, Hamilton have bead blasted cases, and I don't personally like bead blasted. Yes, it's fine. It looks very uniform. It looks grey, and it fulfills a function more or less, because you don't want reflections in the field watch. So yes, I understand that, but bead blasted is, and sorry for saying that, it is a little bit cheap. It takes much more skill to make this. Very nice brushing, and especially very nice polishing. And it just overall feel, when you have the Hamilton and the Serica hand in one hand, you can feel the difference. You can see the difference. It's a much more refined and elegant watch, requiring much more workmanship here. And then we'll come to the strap, 20mm strap, and this is, if I open it up here, you can actually see it says Joseph Bunny is part of the group. Very nice strap. They actually have this, I think that's a very elegant solution, so the keeper cannot move far away, the second keeper here. I think that's a very elegant solution. The strap is really nice. It's a little bit thin, but it works really well with the watch in terms of color. But the thing is, this is a strap monster. I mean, it can take any kind of straps, and it doesn't matter whether it's leather or it's nylon or Cordura or rubber straps. Anything goes with this. So it's a really strap monster. And the thing is, it's a 20mm. That combination, the Hamilton is also a 20mm, but many field watches have the problem that they are 18mm. So just a case in point, if I take this one again, the Hamilton here, this is an 18mm, which is okay, but the 20mm does something. I can give another example. This watch here also, chronograph, but it's 18mm. And again, you have this sort of a feminine curve here. It curves in, and because it's 18mm, there's this very round curve here. And I do appreciate a 20mm, and that keeps that beefy wide angle, and on top of that, the wide locks here. So it makes it an incredible, handsome and masculine, rugged design. So that's what I really appreciate. And we haven't even gotten to the dial yet. These are lacquered dials. I don't know if I can really show it here. Let me try. So it's a lacquer, and I didn't realize how much of a difference it really does. I have white dials and black dials, which are matte, and I will say matte, like this one. Didn't realize until I got it how much this lacquered dial actually plays with the light, and it's a real delight to look at, and I really like that that design aspect. I didn't expect to enjoy that part of it so much. So what is the conclusion? What is the X factor in this watch? I would sum up, I really like this watch, and I have really grown much more in love with it after getting it, seeing it with the hands on. So let's start with the bad. I think there are four things that are bad. No watch is ever perfect, so it's up to you to decide. I just call it like I see it, so that's why I do this review, so you sort of understand the pluses and minuses. So let's start with the minus. It's mineral glass. Not a problem for me because I don't scratch it, I don't use it in the field, but if you do, if you want to go out and play rough with it, it should have a sapphire. Number two, it is not an automatic watch. I enjoy the 100-meter water resistance and the screw-in crown, and when it's screwing I would prefer an automatic. So that's just the way I see it. It's not a big problem, but there it is. The loom is the third thing. The fourth thing is there's a little bit of issue with the crown action. When I pop it up here, for example now, it's not popped out, so when I start to work with it, suddenly it pops out and then it's good. The twisting action is good, but it has this playback, 20% playback. I don't know what it is, but the turning is good, and once I put it in, there's such a solid feeling. The crown action is really good when I screw it in. No problems at all. I think this is a really good workmanship. So there's not a problem in this at all, except that 20% playback. I don't know what it is. So those are the four things. The good things, where to start. I simply cannot begin to say how much I enjoy the process of design. Taking something that we all know and love, and I'm not trying to replace the Hamilton, because the Hamilton is a really nice watch, really good. And we're just taking something we know already and have known for decades, and then elevating that design a little bit away from the field and into the ballroom. That's is something I really like. That play. We don't want to do it all brushed. We do a little bit of polishing and we beef it up and we make it really attractive. And that design idea is simply such a beautiful thing. So for that reason alone, it's a winner. And there's so many positives here, I think, in terms of design. So at the end, I just need to put it on my wrist so you can see it. That's another one of the beauty things of this watch. And before I can put it on, I need to remove my watch, and I have the Sin 104 with the blue dial, really nice, and a canvas strap. So let me put it on. So here it is on my 7-inch wrist. You can see it from afar. You can see it close up. It's a gorgeous watch. So light, so comfortable, and the size. I mean, that is one of the beautiful things about this. It's I struggle with 36 millimeters and below. I struggle with above 40, and this one is just dead in the center. So light, so comfortable, and it's so dressy. It feels so refined, and like you're ready for the boardroom, you're ready for restaurants. You can take this watch anywhere and it will be impeccable. It's really, really a nice design. I really take my hat off for that. Everything about this just oozes of good taste, good manner. It's a gentleman's watch. So in the end, I would say this is a gentleman watch. So the final conclusion, would I buy it again? Knowing all the pros and all the cons, would I buy it again? And the conclusion may surprise you a little bit. I am actually loving it far more than I expected when I got my hands on it. So I'm actually seriously considering, to buy the black one as well. I know I'm terrible that way when I see something I like, so I'm really considering buying the black as well. I know it's crazy, but once you find something that really speaks to you, that's the route you go. So, any case, you've seen the good, the bad, now it's up to you to decide. At least you've seen something that is really nice, and there's not much else on YouTube reviewing this watch, so there you go. See you next time. Oh, by the way, here is the loom shot I promised you. I take my words back. I put it out in the sun for 1 minute, just let it soak in for 1 minute, took it into the dark room, and it's glowing like a torchlight. I didn't expect that, so I take it all back. It seems really nice. So, there you go.